How's it going, everyone? This is Mookie Alexander, managing editor, SB Nation's Field Goals. It has been a long time since I've done any video of any sort, but this is as good a time as any to dust off the cobwebs. We got roster cuts going on throughout the league. The Seattle Seahawks have been pretty quiet on their front as of Monday afternoon. The only one we know who's gone is cornerback Willie Roberts because the Seahawks needed room for their newest acquisition, Trevis Gibson. And Trevis Gibson is relevant because the Seahawks have likely lost Uchenna Nwosu for at least the first month of the regular season. According to ESPN's Adam Schefter, he's got an MCL sprain suffered against the Cleveland Browns in the preseason finale, put him out for 2 to 6 weeks. So if we average that out, 4 weeks means he's got to go on IR, designated to return. He would be eligible to return week 5 against the New York Giants, but keep in mind it is a short week. So week 6 against the San Francisco 49ers is Thursday night. So if I were a betting man, I think that Nwosu would be back for the 49ers game, and that would be one hell of an opponent to make your season debut against. It's just that we'd much rather have him for week 1. So was that a dirty play by Wyatt Teller? In the eyes of both Seahawks fans, yeah, absolutely it was a dirty play. Ray Roberts, the former Seahawks offensive lineman, has been defending his fellow linemen, saying that it was just unfortunate. Now, keep in mind, cut blocks are legal, but because he did that at the same time Jerome Ford engaged with Nwosu, that's what made it a penalty, and that's why Teller got dinged. So no, he's not going to get suspended. You can just forget about that fantasy or speculating about that. He could get fined because we have seen fined for severe personal foul penalties. But we're going to leave that aside for now and focus more on what this means for the Seahawks defense. We know what happened when Nwosu went down last year, that torn pec injury in October, and the defense suffered greatly in part because Nwosu was gone. Because you think about the Seahawks defensive line and their edge rushers. You had Boye Mafe make that second-year lead, but Darrell Taylor, now with the Chicago Bears, didn't really impress. He was struggling with run defense again, and his pressure rate was just not consistent, and that's kind of been the story of his Seahawks career. And then Derek Hall was losing snaps to Frank Clark for a brief period of time, and even when Hall played, he wasn't particularly effective, and he was also going through an injury of his own. So that essentially meant that the Seahawks had one edge rusher who was a net positive. But that could be different this year because Derek Hall looks like he's ready to make that year 2 leap in the same way Boye Mafe did. So that's a big positive for the Seahawks. Draymond Jones, bit of a disappointment as a defensive lineman, interior guy, or a 3-4 DE. So they're kicking him out to edge. He's lost some weight. He's going to be in a new position. And even then, there's some concern about Draymond Jones and the fact that he's missed quite a bit of training camp and practice and preseason games due to injury as well. So you got Draymond, you got Boye Mafe, you got Derek Hall, that's 3. You got Trevis Gibson, that is 4. And then maybe, just maybe, Jamie Sheriff could make the team, even if just for the first month of the season they would stash him, because even though I think people way overestimate the number of waiver claims that happen on cutdown day. Last year was only 24. It's probably going to be around 25 to 30 again this year. Sheriff looks like a guy who is too good to not risk putting through the waiver wire. So I would rather see him make the 53 just sentimentally. I mean, this guy was selling beer just a couple months ago, and now he's got a shot to make an NFL regular season roster. Those are the stories that you love to see in professional sports. But Sheriff was very effective in preseason, and I know preseason warrior doesn't mean you're going to be anything in the regular season, but he looked much better than the second and third stringers he was going against, and that in itself is a positive sign. Based on Mike McDonald's comments, it doesn't sound like Sheriff will make the team, but with this new information regarding Nwosu, perhaps they'll have a change of heart. But it's more than just the edge rushers. Think about the interior defensive line. Leonard Williams, full offseason with Seattle, and he can also kick to the outside on occasion, which is what I saw him do on a few snaps in practice at Lumen Field. You've got Mike Morris, busy as hell in preseason, made up for lost time with the injury last year. And Morris was doing some stand-up edge rushing throughout preseason, so he's an option. And then you've got Byron Murphy on the interior, along with Jaron Reed. Jonathan Hankins more of a run defender, but the other two, Williams and Reed, Murphy and Reed, and then you add in Big Cat. That can be exciting. That can mitigate some of the loss for Seattle in ways that last year they were pretty much out to sea when Nwosu was gone. So you look at the run defense, you would hope that Byron Murphy can provide significant contribution there. Derek Hall looks much improved as a run defender. Mafe's been a positive run defender, at least I think, since even his rookie season. In fact, he was a better run defender than he was a pass rusher as a rookie. So Nwosu being the best two-way lineman certainly stings to not have him, but the reinforcements I think give me a little bit more comfort than I had rather when he went down last year, and then we saw what happened with the defense. Even with the Leonard Williams trade, they were just one of the worst units in the league. Pass rush wasn't consistent. They were getting bulldozed against the run. The whole 9 yards. It was just ugly to watch. It wouldn't have been like a huge improvement to the point where they're top 5 if Nwosu had been healthy the whole year, but his absence absolutely made an impact on the way that the season kind of went south on Seattle. But you also got to add in addition to the talent on the team, new defensive scheme. Mike Macdonald, he is just a very creative mind. He can create simulated pressures, creative blitzes, what have you, find other ways to generate pressure, even with just a four-man front, such that I trust him and the coaching staff, Adam Dirty, everyone else on McDonald's defensive coaching staff to be able to game plan effectively, at least over the first few weeks of the season, around the loss of Nwosu. There's more talent on the defensive line. Draymond Jones is going to have to really earn his money, so to speak, because he wasn't great in his first season. Now we got this position switch. Can he be more effective as an edge rusher than he was as just an interior lineman? So that I'm very interested in seeing. But for any Seahawks fans who are put in a panic over the loss of Nwosu, I understand. But it's not a season-ending injury. That's the good news. And the first few weeks of the season is not as daunting a schedule on paper. I think the Denver Broncos could actually be the second best team in the AFC West, but that is not saying a lot because it's not a good division to begin with. But I don't think they're going to be a laughingstock. Are they going to be playoff caliber good? Are they going to be a great team? I don't think so. But you got Denver to start the year, and Bo Nix is going to have hopefully a rude awakening dealing with McDonald's defenses compared to all the preseason vanilla schemes he's been watching. And then you've got the New England Patriots as the first game on the road, and Drake May could start. I think he should start over Jacoby Brissett if Brissett is injured. And also, Drake May is one of the few quarterbacks from this year's class whom I believe can be really, really good. He reminds me of Justin Herbert. But if he sits because the offensive line isn't any good and they think that May's going to get clobbered, fully understand. But whatever the case, New England is expected to be one of the worst teams in the league. So those are your first two games. The Miami and Detroit games are going to be a lot different. That's week 3 and week 4. You've got high-powered offenses, a great offensive line in Detroit. That's where Nwosu's absence could certainly be felt. And then you get to the Giants game, and the Giants are probably not going to be any good. Their offensive line, at the very least, is one of the worst in the league. And then the 49ers game, which is going to be important. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So, again, could be much worse. Miami, Detroit, San Francisco, 3 likely playoff teams, but also the Giants, Broncos, and Patriots, 3 likely non-playoff teams. So this is not them facing the hardest part of their schedule without Nwosu. So all things considered, while it hurts to lose Nwosu for even a game, I believe that this year's Seahawks, with this year's coaching staff and some of the improvements and tweaks along the defensive line and an outside linebacker, are more equipped to deal with the loss of a key player, even as someone as good as Nwosu, than they were last year, even in seasons past where one key injury and suddenly the whole building collapses. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see the extent of Nwosu's injury. We're still waiting on it because the Seahawks don't have any media availability on Monday. I don't know if they have availability on Tuesday. They're going to be busy with cutdowns, so probably not Tuesday either. But by then, we should know whether or not Nwosu is going to be on injured reserve. So on that note, let me wrap this up by saying you can follow me on X/Twitter at Mookie Alexander. Can also follow me on Field Goals at Field Goals. All my work is at fieldgoals.com and sbnation.com for more national stuff. But you can continue following this space. We might even have another video at the end of the week pertaining to the 53-man roster, the initial 53-man roster, that is, and the subsequent practice squad that the Seahawks will soon form. So until next time, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and go Hawks.